Welcome to the penalty box.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Penalty Box podcast. I am so excited to have you here. My name is Mia Rudders. If you're new here, welcome. I am genuinely so happy you found me and you found this community. We are so excited to have you. That sounds so scripted, but I want like an intro. I want like a more welcoming intro. But anyway, welcome. If you cannot or have not noticed yet, I don't have my mic still. I don't want to go out and buy an entirely new microphone because they're just expensive and I know my mic is somewhere. And I also have 2 other mics. I just don't know how to use them yet, like I mentioned in the other episodes. So we're going to have to make do for now. I promise I'm working on it. I promise. But first things first, we have had over 30,000 listeners in the past month, which is crazy, like genuinely insane, because when I started this podcast, it was mostly for people in my area, kind of like just in the Boston area to get to know hockey a little bit more. It wasn't anything like this at all. I got maybe 1 listen per episode, and I can bet you it was somebody in my family or one of my friends. Like nobody cared, and then it feels like overnight it turned into like this big community, and it's insane, and I'm so grateful, and I'm sorry I'm rambling. But anyway, on Instagram we hit 18.6K, which is amazing as well. We are on the road to 20,000, which I never expected. I'm not even kidding. In February, I had 3,000 followers on this account, and I kid you not, my post would get maybe 10 likes. Like nobody cared. And then now we're at 18,000 within a couple months, and it's just incredible. It's incredible to see the passion and the work that goes into it all. I mean, if you did not know, we have an amazing team of interns. None of us get paid. We all work so hard around the clock. I'm not even kidding. Sorry. I get texts from my interns at like 11. We all work to create all the content that you guys consume on social media, whether that's Pinterest, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. We work so hard to make the content for you guys. So it's incredible that you support all of us. And shout out to my team. The Penalty Box team is incredible. And I know I am for sure rambling, but that's what the intro section is for. My team is incredible. They are a team of over 30 women, and they work so hard to make the content that you love. And I know I'm repeating myself, but I am so lucky to not only work with them, but to have them in my life and be friends with them, because not only are each of them so talented at what they do, they're amazing people. I kid you not. They are so incredible, and I'm not just saying that to say that. When I started this and I started expanding a little bit, I told everybody, I was like, if I bring people on my team, I am going to deep dive into them. Like Chick-fil-A, I would compare it to Chick-fil-A. If you did not know, Chick-fil-A really dives into everybody they hire. Like they will ask family and friends for recommendations. Like they go into it. So I told people I would do Chick-fil-A style hiring because I want to create a team that feels safe and loving. Like it's not even just a team, it's a family. And I know that sounds so cringe, but it really is. And I know that the interns listening to this agree, because we all have, there's like group chats, and which don't worry, everyone's in. There's different group chats. We have a group me, which is going to be public soon, so you can join and chat with all of us and join our community. We have a book club starting. Like I just love the people I'm surrounded by, and I cannot believe that this is a thing. Like I cannot believe it. But anyway, we are going to move on to our playoff update, and we're going to start with the Bruins, because if you did not know, I'm from Boston. That's my home team. They made it to round 2. I cannot even lie. I was genuinely so nervous, because the first round really did feel like deja vu and a repeat of last year, but they rewrote that story and made it to round 2. Now, the first game of round 2 was incredible for the Bruins. I mean, they completely swept the Panthers, and I was kind of shook. And then game 2 just happened the other day, and the complete opposite happened. The Panthers absolutely swept the Bruins, which is, this is how hockey goes. This is why we love it, because it can really go both ways, but it's also so stressful because what do you mean? How does that even happen? It has me biting my nails. Let's just say my long natural nails that I was growing out are not there anymore. That doesn't make sense. Anyway, so the Bruins and the Panthers, as we know, they are still in the playoffs. The other teams that are in the playoffs include the Hurricanes, the Stars, the Avalanche, the Canucks, the Oilers, and the Rangers. And the Rangers actually won the President's Trophy, and I'm kind of thinking I'm jinxing it now. If you don't know what I'm talking about, we covered the President's Trophy curse in a prior episode. I highly recommend you go check that out. But I think I jinxed it because they are doing incredible in the playoffs. So we are a decent amount through the playoff season, which is crazy because it genuinely feels like it's flying by so fast. And I don't want to talk too much about my hopes for the playoffs because I am superstitious and I just don't want to continue to jinx anything. I have no idea who's going to win this year. I have like an inkling and I don't like it. I don't like the inkling. And if you know, you know. If you don't, you don't. But speaking of playoffs, here at the Penalty Box, we've been trying to incorporate more PWHL content, especially since this is the first year that they will ever be having a playoff season. And we kind of touched on this last episode and covered the teams that will be in the PWHL playoffs. But in case you missed it, don't worry. The teams are Montreal, Toronto, Boston, and Minnesota. And they will be competing for the Walter Cup, which is like the equivalent of the Stanley Cup. And we also cover that on the podcast. I personally am definitely Team Boston, but I also really do love Toronto so far. So this will be a super fun event. We, as the Penalty Box team, some of us are trying to go to the game to get some coverage. We're not sure which games yet or if we will go, but we're hoping to bring you some content. So now that we are done with our playoff walkthrough, we are going to go to our hockey hot topics. And this week, we're going to start off with Timo Meier getting surgery. We all know, and if you don't, now you do. We all know that Timo Meier got injured, but details are now out about what this injury is exactly and how long his recovery is going to be. And I know the Devils aren't in the playoffs, okay? I know, but I am a Devils fan, and surprisingly, a large amount of our listeners are too. So anyway, nobody really knew details about Timo's injury, how long his recovery is going to be, all of that. And now we know that he got elective arthroscopic shoulder surgery. I'm not laughing at that. I'm laughing at me saying it. But he got it a little over a week ago, and it said that he decided to have this done at the end of the 2023-2024 season, which is, in my opinion, amazing timing because now he has time to recover and he has time to rest without the pressure of the hockey season or playoff season. We also found out, obviously, that the operation was successful, and that's great because we know he has been dealing with this pain throughout the season, and he is a key member of the team. He is very physical. He is very helpful, so having him hurt and not play at his best potential is not good for anybody. In his exit interview, he actually talked about how he injured an oblique and both of his MCLs, which is so painful and sad, but luckily he is expected to make a full recovery before the start of training camp, which is in September. So that is great. Now, if you did not know, before Timo was on the Devils, he was actually on the San Jose Sharks, and that leads us to our next hot topic. I am on a roll with my segues. Can we give credit? Anyway, if you did not know, they now have the first round pick. They won the NHL draft lottery on Tuesday, and the Blackhawks actually got the second pick, and the Anaheim Ducks have the third. The Sharks had an 18.5% chance at winning, and this actually is their first ever time in history that they have gotten the number 1 draft pick. They got the number 2 draft pick on 3 occasions, and I'm sure that everybody is, I saw videos of when it got announced, and I think everybody in San Jose is super excited. So good for you guys. As much as, I feel a little bad. Obviously, these kids go to some rough teams in the beginning, but it all works out. Anyway, the lottery happened in New Jersey, and there were 16 teams that were a part of it, and they were all the teams that were not in the Stanley Cup playoffs. And the odds for each of these 16 teams were based on the inverse order of the regular season standings. And then the top 11 teams were eligible to receive the number 1 pick. I know that's a lot, but only the 2 top picks were determined by the lottery, and then the remaining teams were kind of like put in by the order of their finish in the standings. Does that make sense? And then picks 17 through 32, which are the rest of the teams, they're going to be determined by the results of the playoffs. So we know number 1 is the Sharks, 2 Blackhawks, 3 Ducks. The Columbus Blue Jackets will actually pick number 4, and then the Montreal Canadiens will pick number 5. So those are the top 5 draft results. The next hot topic is about how Jack Eichel has made history. He scored 2 points against the Dallas Stars, which makes him the fastest born player in the United States to hit 30 career playoff points. That is insane, but not only that, he did it in only 24 playoff games. So good for Jack. And I know that's a very short one, and I know I don't always announce numbers and record breaking, but I feel like the Golden Knights needed a little hot topic. They needed to pop in. Now, this topic is for all my friends who hate Brad Marchand and the Bruins, because one of the most iconic players has praised Marchand. So what happened was the Bruins won against the Maple Leafs in round 1 of the playoffs this year, which as a Bruins fan, I'm excited for. But this actually had the Wayne Gretzky sharing a sweet story about Brad Marchand. And you know me, I'm a sucker for sweet stories. I'm a sucker for teammates supporting other players. It makes my heart cry. So, of course, he had to talk about it. Gretzky talked about how Marchand spent 5 days at training camp last year practicing with the rookies and explaining what it meant to really wear the Bruins jersey. Which that is so precious. That really shows commitment, because that's Brad Marchand. He is busy. That is a busy man, and he's really taking the time to do that. And I know you're probably thinking that must be the bare minimum. Sorry, but are people even hitting the bare minimum nowadays? It's not really that common. Anyway, Gretzky said that, quote, "That's a sign of a great captain. He's just a tremendous, tremendous athlete," end quote. And that is big, big praise. And truly, as someone who lives and has grown up in Boston, we see the work that the entire Bruins team does on and off the ice, like having the Boston Bruins Foundation and hosting events like Bowl with a Bruin, raffles, so many other things. They are just constantly giving back to the community. And that, I think, is why I'm so confused when I see people online hating the Bruins, because all I can think about is all these images that come to my head of them doing charity events, because I have seen that, I have experienced so many charity events with them. And in my head, they're not these evil bad guys. They're the guys that are just very sweet, thoughtful, charitable humans. Now, speaking of Boston, they are currently playing the Florida Panthers in round 2 of the playoffs, and Matthew Tkachuk is under fire because he jokingly said that the Panthers knew that they would be playing Boston before the series was over. And let me tell you, he is under fire from Leafs fans. Not just the average Joe. And what I've learned from this playoff season is that Leafs fans are kind of insufferable. Okay, listen. They're not as bad as Rangers fans. They don't say anything horrific, and nothing like that. But they just go really, really hard against the Bruins for no reason. And it's just kind of funny how aggressive they get. So personally, I just think it's a funny, silly little joke. It sucks to be out of the playoffs for sure. Like, I would be so disappointed, but I don't really get why people are that pissed. Another thing about Matthew Tkachuk is that him and Pasta actually got in a fight the other night on the ice during their game, and it was so funny because it genuinely looked like they were dancing. And we posted it on our Instagram story, so I know I sound crazy, but it genuinely looked like they were dancing. The Panthers were winning 6-1. There were 8 minutes left in the game. There were already a bunch of little fights. The tension was really, really, really rising. And for the second time ever, Pastrnak took off his gloves and fought. I kid you not, with Matthew Tkachuk, which is shocking. But let me tell you, if you didn't watch it, Tkachuk started it. Genuinely, he asked Pasta to fight. But of course, Tkachuk picks the people that don't fight or not aggressive. You know what I mean? He could have gone to anybody else, but he went to Pasta, who, he has a baby. He's not a fighter. This is the second time in his entire career he's dropped the gloves. He's not there for that. And I think Tkachuk knew what he was doing, and I think it's kind of shady, but, whatever. I think the internet is very torn. I'm obviously Team Pasta. I'm proud of him. And even Jim Montgomery, if you don't know, he is the coach of the Boston Bruins. He said that he's proud too. And he said, quote, "I'm really proud of Pasta. There's so many guys out there pushing after the whistle when the linesmen are there. Pasta and Tkachuk, they just went out there and fought. That's what you like. You like your hockey players to be competitors." So he's proud. I am proud of the way Pasta handled it, but I'm not proud of the way that Matthew Tkachuk picked Pasta. I don't know if that makes any sense. If you saw it, you would understand, hopefully. I don't know if I'm making sense, but I think I am. Anyway, let's go back a little bit and talk about the Leafs, because there is a lot of talk about the Leafs' core four. If you did not know, it's a core four group of 4 men consisting of Nylander, Matthews, Marner, and Tavares. I believe that's his name. I don't really know the Leafs too well, so I'm sorry if I mispronounce any names. But people are talking about them because it's not known how much longer they are going to be together for. And the most common rumor I found online is about how Mitch Marner is allegedly going to be traded, but he has openly and continuously talked about how he wants to stay a Maple Leaf. And a couple of them, I forget who exactly, but they came out the other day saying that they are hopeful that the core four is actually going to lead the Leafs to the Cup next year. And as much as I love the enthusiasm, they have really been social distancing from that Cup for a long time now. And I really do love the enthusiasm, but it's also come on, come on, let's just take it down a notch. Maybe just be happy you made it to playoffs. That's a big accomplishment alone. That's exciting. This is our last hot topic, but it's the fact that the New Jersey Devils temporary head coach was hired by the Ottawa Senators, and we all know that the Devils had a really rough season. They fired their head coach, Lindy Ruff, and they brought in Travis Green. He continued to coach our team through the rest of our very rough, bad season. And this is a hot topic because the Senators actually signed him for 4 years, which is a big commitment. And personally, from what I witnessed, which honestly was not too much, but I don't know if he's the best person to sign for 4 years. Also, I just think in general, signing someone for 4 years, like a coach, when they weren't even a full-time coach for a full season is just risky. I don't even know if I'm making sense. I hope you're understanding what I'm saying. Today is not an English day, but we got to keep pushing. All right, now we're going to go into our Hockey 101 lesson. And I am really excited for this week's hockey lesson because it is one of our first ever, I think, PWHL hockey lessons. It's either our first or second or third, but it's in honor of their first ever PWHL playoff season that started this week. And unfortunately, this is going to be really short because we don't have too much information since there is their first ever playoffs. And I did make a whole other episode about the Walter Cup, so there's not much to cover here. But I thought it would fit well into this episode since we did cover a good amount of hot topics earlier. And I really do want to start talking about the PWHL more. So I think it will fit in perfectly with this episode. I know I have said it before, but it is genuinely so incredible to be able to witness history literally being made. I mean, think about it. We think of the original 6 NHL teams. To this day, it's iconic. Imagine being able to say you were at the original 6 PWHL games. Like, that is crazy, and sometimes it doesn't really function through. Like, okay, the fact that our kids will be, if we have kids, whatever, will be able to say, like, oh, my mommy, my daddy, they're older than the PWHL. Huh? What do you, what? Like, oh my God, we're older than the PWHL. Unless you were born, like, yesterday and you're listening to this with your mom, then, like, you're younger than the PWHL, but for the most part, I'm sure all of us are older. Anyway, like the NHL playoffs, the PWHL playoffs will take place annually. This year, the 4 out of the 6 teams that made it to the playoffs, like I have mentioned, are Boston, Minnesota, Montreal, and Toronto. Now, unlike the NHL, the number 1 team in the league, which this year is Toronto, they get to pick their opponent, which is wild. But they chose number 4, which was Minnesota, over number 3, Boston. And I'm glad that they did, because Toronto and Boston are my favorite teams, and I don't want to watch them play each other right now. I'm not ready yet. So I'm glad with their pick. But this is really cool, because having the ability to pick who you want to play in the postseason is unique to the PWHL. We don't have that in the NHL, and I wonder, like, why exactly they picked Boston, what they were thinking, who exactly picked what. Was it a team meeting? Like, I have so many questions that maybe they're answered by the time this podcast goes out, but I'm so excited to learn more. Each series is a best-of-5 format, and the better teams have the home ice advantage. So I know for a fact, like we have talked about in previous episodes, Toronto and Montreal are the higher teams, so I think they get home advantage during the entire first round of the PWHL playoffs, which is so cool. The day that this podcast comes out, Friday, May 10th, tonight there is a game at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. It's Minnesota at Toronto at the Coca-Cola Coliseum. And then tomorrow, on Saturday, May 11th, we have Boston at Montreal at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. And then the 13th, we have Toronto at Minnesota at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. May 14th, we have Montreal at Boston, which hopefully, fingers crossed, I am manifesting I can go to one of the Boston games. That is at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. And then on the 15th, we have Toronto at Minnesota at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. And this game forward are only if necessary. So the schedule really depends on the wins. I am really hoping Boston does good, but good luck to every single team. Super incredible, super cool that we get to live through this and witness this, and I really am excited to see which team gets to take home the Walter Cup for the first time ever. That's so cool. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast. It genuinely means the world to me, especially if you made it all the way to the end. I am so grateful for you because you are making my dreams come true, and even though I'm not getting paid, even though this isn't anything crazy yet, it means the world to me that we have helped even just one person find a community, and I am just excited to see where this goes. And even if it goes nowhere, I am so thankful. I have a great time with this team, working with these people, creating the content we create. So thank you. And it would mean a lot if you could rate this podcast 5 stars and follow if you're on Spotify. If you're on YouTube, subscribe and give it a thumbs up if you're feeling extra nice. Make sure to check out all our socials. We have Pinterest, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter. We have it all. Just look up Penalty Box Podcast. You'll find us, or go to our Instagram because we have our link tree in our bio with all our links. Thank you guys so much for everything. I know I say it every episode, but I genuinely do love you guys. And I will meet you guys in the Penalty Box soon. Bye, guys.
Thanks for tuning into the Penalty Box Podcast. Don't forget to connect with us on social media by searching for the Penalty Box. Also, make sure you hit that follow button on Spotify. And if you enjoyed the show, leave us a 5-star review. Until next time, see you in the Penalty Box.